Hi, and welcome to the Margaret E. Heggan Public Library. I'm Miss Jennifer, and once again, for Once Upon a Storytime, we'll be celebrating the winter with some cold stories from around the world. Today, we're reading one of the most famous season myths from Greece, The Seeds of Winter. When the gods were young, there was no winter. There was no winter, no spring, no summer, and no autumn. Just warmth and growth, with fruit heavy in the trees and grain tall in the fields. Every month brought a new crop to harvest, and everyone ate well. The goddess Demeter was always busy because it was her job to encourage all plants to grow. But she was happy too. Demeter had a daughter she loved very much, Persephone, whose father was chief god Zeus. So, with her beloved plants and her beloved child both growing healthy and strong, Demeter was glowing, generous presence on earth. Persephone grew into a beautiful young woman, tall, slim, and golden, like the wheat in her mother's fields. One sunny day, Persephone was picnicking with her friends at the edge of a field. They'd eaten so much of the earth's goddessness, apple pies, cucumber sandwiches, honey cakes, that all her friends were full and sleepy. But Persephone noticed something in the center of the field, a plant she'd never seen before, dark and glittering in the distance. She asked her friends if they would come with her to examine the plant, but they yawned and said they would join her later. So Persephone walked on her own toward the plant. As she got closer, she could see it was covered with black flowers. As she got closer still, she could see silver tips on each black petal. She knew all of her mother's plants, but she never seen flowers so gloriously dark and sharp. There were 9 blossoms, and Persephone decided it wouldn't harm the plant if she picked just one of them to show her mother. So Persephone reached out to pluck the nearest flower, but her finger stuck to the stem. She couldn't break the stem, and she couldn't pull her hand away. The flower trembled, the whole plant shivered. Then the plant jerked and started to sink into the ground as something was pulling on the roots. Persephone yelled for help, but her friends were asleep. The plant was dragged down into the crumbling earth, and Persephone was drowned down after it. And she landed in the underworld. She landed at the feet of Hades, the god of the underworld, the king of the dead. Hades had heard of Persephone's golden beauty, and he wanted her to brighten his dark land. So he had grown the black flowers to tempt her, and he had pulled on the roots to steal her away. "Will you be my queen?" he asked. Hades offered Persephone the black blossoms as a wedding bouquet, and he offered her a table of fragrant food at a wedding feast. Persephone looked around at the dark glories and riches of the underworld. She heard the whispered histories and knowledge of the dead. She smiled at Hades, and she accepted the flowers, but she didn't eat any of the feast because she suspected eating the food of the underworld could trap her there forever. Up above, Demeter was starting to panic. Persephone had to come home after the picnic, and although Demeter had no idea where her daughter was, she was afraid someone had taken her. So she rushed to Olympus and demanded to see Zeus. "Where is our daughter?" she sobbed. The most powerful of the gods frowned, then shrugged. He had a lot of children. It was hard to keep track of them all. But Demeter's grief was growing louder, and Zeus was fond of Persephone. So he sent Hermes, the messenger of the gods, to investigate. Hermes returned with rumors of a new queen in the underworld, and with hair more golden than a crown. "That's her!" cried Demeter. "That's Persephone! Bring her back! Please, Zeus, bring our girl back!" So Zeus sent Hermes down to the underworld with instructions to ask Hades to politely to give the girl back to her mother. But Hades refused. "She's happy here, aren't you, dear? And she makes me happy. What would she do back at her mother's anyway? Weed the garden? Thin out the carrots? She's wasted there. Tell Zeus I'm keeping her here." Hermes took the message back to Zeus, who shrugged and said there was nothing he could do. Demeter wailed and screamed and stomped around the marble halls of Olympus. Then she calmed down and said in a quiet voice, "If you are going to do nothing, then I will do nothing too. I will do nothing at all." And she did indeed do nothing. Demeter refused to help the plants and grass and crops grow. She sat in a corner weeping and muttering and refusing to do anything. While she was in such a dark mood, nothing could grow. No grass, no flowers, no fruit, no crops, nothing grew. When the grass stopped growing, the animals became thin and hungry. When the crops failed, the people were soon thin and hungry as well. Eventually, the people had so little food, they stopped sending off offerings to the gods. The gods became hungry too. Zeus looked around at the barren, hungry world, and he said that he'd better get Persephone back after all. So he summoned Hermes, returned to the underworld, and demanded that Hades hand over Persephone and make that demand in the name of the highest god, in the name of Zeus, the god of thunder. Before Hermes started on his journey to the underworld, Hades and Persephone already knew he was coming. When Zeus thundered, everyone heard, so everyone knew what Hermes' mission was. Hades turned to Persephone as they sat on their ivory thrones and held out a handful of red seeds. "You must be hungry, my dear. Please accept these seeds." Persephone knew it was time to make a choice. She could eat the 12 blood-red seeds and stay forever in the underworld with all the power of the Queen of the Dead. Or she could refuse to eat the 12 blood-red seeds and return to the light to be with her mother's daughter forever. Persephone took the 12 seeds from Hades' white hand. As she raised the seeds to the lips, Hermes arrived on his feathered feet and announced, "Zeus, the thunderer, demands the return of his daughter." "It's too late," smiled Hades. "She has already eaten the food of the underworld. She must stay here forever." "Not forever," said Persephone. She opened her fingers and showed 8 blood seeds still glowing in the palm of her hand. "I only ate 4 of the 12 seeds, so I will stay with you for 4 months of the year, and I will return to sunlight and my mother's fields for the rest of the year." So now the gods are older, and we have winter. We have winter for 4 months of the year that Persephone is in the underworld, when Demeter grieves for her daughter and refuses to let the plants grow. Then comes spring, when Persephone returns, and Demeter's joy brings life and growth. Then summer, when everyone is settled into contented happiness. Then autumn, when Demeter sinks slowly into sadness as she remembers her daughter must leave again. And then winter returns, when Demeter grieves once more, and no plants grow anywhere. No plants except the glittering black flowers that Persephone grows in the underworld. Thank you once again for joining me for Once Upon a Story Time. Stay warm.